Welcome to episode 410 of Salcedo Paranormal, and tonight I am sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, at the podcast page, and then it's salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from y'all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or you listen on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or if you listen on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. You can hear 2 episodes of the show, replays, every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange of Troubled Minds Radio, as well as Liam Martin, Rohan of the Exiled Minds podcast for producing the show and putting all the music in there that you hear at the beginning and end of every show if you listen on the station. Really appreciate that. And so I think that's all of that. Also, if you want to support the show, there are a few different ways to do that. Of course, rating and reviewing it on the podcast platform of your choice, and then sharing it with others as well. Also, if you are into paranormal fiction or nonfiction books, I have written some of those you can check out over on Amazon. And then if you'd like to make a direct donation to the show, I have links for that as well. PayPal, Venmo, Patreon now. And any support it would be appreciated. It's never expected, but there are expenses to doing the show. And so, again, just always like to put that out there just in case that interests anyone. So I think that covers everything, and I think I can get on to the stories here. So this first one says, in 2019, I worked at a well-known Halloween supply store. At the time, I was taking props and costumes out of boxes and setting them up for display when I saw something odd. It was the outline of a person, but I could see through it. They appeared to also be going through the boxes, which appeared to open and close nearly on their own. I can't describe it except by using the word ghost, though I really don't know what it was. And that's the first story. Short one, but I really think that's amazing in a way, because you have this store sort of dedicated to this time of year when everyone is thinking about sort of the paranormal in one way or another, whether it's they're thinking of it in as real or not. They mentioned in the original text, they mentioned the name of the company, but I took that out just because. But it's a company that sets up stores basically only during that time of year. And so I'm guessing there's a lot of energy that goes into the setup of such a place, basically renting out the space and then setting it all up, bringing all the supplies there, and getting all that going in time. And then, so I wonder if it was some kind of residual attached to the items, or again, some kind of I wonder how many years that company rented out that certain space, if it was some kind of a time anomaly where the writer was just seeing whether it's another employee or even themselves, depending on if they worked there before. Because it does sound like the apparition was doing going through some of the same motions as the writer who was working there. So it's hard to say. I wonder, of course, you have to consider the history of the location. But just that whole energy of that time of year and then that focus of so many people. I wonder if that also had something to do with it. And it may be something I might have to look into for a show, see what I can find on sort of Halloween themed stores and the activity there. I mean, I've shared stories before in the show, and I'm sure you've heard stories before about stores and other businesses being haunted. But this is the first time I've heard of a store that is dedicated to this sort of this time of year and these ideas of sort of disguises and the paranormal in different ways, fear, even if it's a sort of a manufactured fear where people do like to be, in some cases, like to be frightened, of course. But neat story there in terms of the apparition seeming to be doing something similar, or at least going through some of the same motions as the writer. But then the box is also opening and closing. So then, of course, does that mean that, again, going back to if this was actually a person in some other time, that they were just being viewed through some kind of energy field that was distorting their image, then were those boxes, I would wonder if those boxes that the writer said were opening and closing, were they in some of the same spots as maybe other boxes there before? Were those boxes even real boxes? In terms of, were they part of, again, if it's some kind of a time anomaly thing or a vision of another point in time, or even just some other version of reality, maybe some of those boxes, they were part of that as well. Just a lot of questions there, of course, as always. And, but yeah, neat sighting. And I wonder, again, obviously you don't know because the writer doesn't say the location, which I don't blame them. But I'd wonder about the history of the location as well. So often you hear people who maybe are not into all this talk about how this place is so old it must be haunted. And I think it depends on so many variables, and it can also just be the land, where there's a lot of history there, and it doesn't matter what you have on it. There could still be activity, and then if you put something on it, like, or have something located there, like a store, again, on this topic, on this sort of time of year, then maybe that does help increase activity. So hard to say, but I think I've done all I can for that story. Can't think of anything else to add to it right now. But moving on to the next one. I think these are all kind of short stories today, but sometimes the short ones are just as interesting as the long ones. Okay. So, this next one says, when I was a young child, my family moved into a new home built on old farmland. That's sort of funny. I forgot I had this one right after that one. Anyway, it says, one day I was walking through the house and came across the stairwell. I looked up and saw a woman in white, wearing a dress with her hair in curls, moving down the hallway. Her face appeared to be blurry. She was walking, but also appeared to be floating as well. As I was trying to figure out if I was imagining things, the apparition disappeared. I don't know if it was a guardian angel or just the spirit of someone who lived there before, and that's where that one ends. That's that sort of woman in white sighting is fairly common. Had one just last a couple of days ago, or at least one of the recent shows where that was seen in the woods, and but also they're seen in homes as well, and outside of homes. So, and it could have been someone that had lived there before. Again, we don't know how apparitions appear, or how even again with time anomalies, with visions into other times or places, we don't know how those can be distorted because of whatever is manifesting them. So I could understand the face being blurry. May seem odd, but maybe it's just part of that. Or it could have been the spirit. I mean, I like to consider all the possibilities, and that's one I think as well. And I wonder if it was also just residual. The thing about the hallway is you would think that, I mean, that's a commonly used part of a house. You're always going to be, whenever you want to get to whatever rooms are on either end of that hallway or either side of that hallway, you're going to go through that hallway. Unless you're at such a big place that has multiple ways to get to the same locations, but so it could have just been a residual image of that as well. But neat sighting, and I'm glad that it didn't really appear to frighten the writer. And I'm wondering, they don't say it happened ever again, so that's always amazing to me in a way. That's just as amazing as the repeated sightings by many people or by the same person of apparitions in locations. Because then, again, that just makes me wonder, why does that happen just that one time? Or did it happen more and just no one else was there at those other times to see whatever was going on there? It's hard to say with that, but yeah, neat sighting, and it's amazing how often these figures all in white are seen. And actually, I mean, a lot of times I get multiple stories in one show. I actually have this now with this next story here, where these figures are seen just all over the place. Again, like I said, recently had a story with one sighted in the woods where it was very much seemed like the writer was being drawn towards this other woman in white, this figure in the woods. But then you have this sighting in a house, just in a hallway. And then this next one we're going to get to here. So, I wonder how often that is spirit or of a person or someone else, some other entity taking on that form. I think that's always a possibility. I've heard that associated with sort of nature spirits as well. So it seems like it's a similar thing, similar visual sighting, but it seems like there can be many different things it could be. Of course, as always. So, moving on to this next story here. This says, even though I've had a few paranormal experiences in my life, this one stands out to me, as I was not alone at the time. A few years ago, when my boyfriend and I had to move from California to Washington State, we decided to pack everything into our vehicles and do some sightseeing as we made our way to our new home. We took Highway 101 so we could see the ocean as well. We had made it to Oregon. I have a hard time saying that word. And spent most of the day in a small town there while I tried to book us a room in a specific hotel. By the time we headed out again, night had fallen. At one point, a strange fog appeared and began to envelop the area. almost seeming to dance around us, appearing almost like snow at times. There was no one else on the road except for us at the time, each of us in our own vehicle. Outside of the fog, all was dark, without a light in view for some time. Then, as quickly as the fog had arrived, it vanished. We came to a stretch of the highway where there were no other roads leading off of it for a while. My boyfriend was in his vehicle behind me, with an empty road ahead and behind us. That made it easy to spot the figure off in the distance ahead of me, standing on the side of the road. It was a woman wearing all white clothes, with long dark hair. She didn't have anything else with her, not even a flashlight. As soon as my headlights fell across her, she spun around and darted off into the woods and out of sight. Once she was fully... Oh, I'm sorry. I think I messed up there with the... Anyway, let me just skip over that one paragraph. Sorry about that. It says, my boyfriend's voice came through on the walkie-talkies we carried with us for communication, asking, "What the heck was that?" I turned my... I'm sort of messed up the rewrite of this. So it says, I asked him what he saw, but he didn't want to talk about it at the time, saying that it was scary. When we were able to talk about it later, we described the same thing to each other. I wish to this day that I had owned a dash cam at the time. Sorry about the end of the story there. There were some parts I didn't rewrite and didn't realize it, or didn't remove anyway. So, but again, this figure in white, this woman in white, this time seen on the side of a road, but also there was that strange fog. The way the writer described it, I really wonder if the two may have been connected somehow, or at least the writer and their boyfriend came across maybe some kind of a weird area, just an area with sort of different environmental features, energy fields, whatever, where I wonder about that, if they were to research or look into that one stretch, if they would find what they would find in terms of other sightings in that area of strange things. And I wonder if they would find reports of fog or this woman in white again. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did, or if they found even more strange things besides those. Excuse me. So neat sighting there with makes you wonder, why did this figure leave? Did they not expect to be seen? Was it a person, or was it some other being that was sort of just there and didn't realize it was the writer, that people were going to spot it, or even maybe didn't even expect anyone to be coming through that area at the time? A lot of questions there, and it's hard to say. But again, you have this woman in white and a different setting, different reaction, but also then you have this fog. And I've heard different shows and stories about people who have had experiences with the paranormal, and there's different kinds of fog and mist involved, either before, during, or after other odd things that people saw or heard or felt. And so that is not uncommon either. There's a book that someone that I've heard on different shows recently before wrote all about that. But yeah, I'll look that up and see if I can reference it in the show notes. But yeah, so I just wonder if there was a connection between that fog and then that figure. and the way they reacted. But let me check on this last story and see if I think I have time to cover it. Let me see here. All right. Yeah, no, this looks like a longer one. I better just stop with that one. Because I don't know if I get it done in time. And I've only seen fog here and there once in a while, but I've always noticed, and I've mentioned this before, I think, in different shows, I've never liked the sound of the wind when it really gets going. I almost feel like somehow there are times when I'm picking up on different energies or different, even consciousness, spirits, whatever, moving through it when it's going, when it's really, really making a lot of noise. And all those things. I think there's something to that, and I think I wonder how many other people, if you all ever get weird feelings when it's windy, message me after the show, and maybe we can do a show on that at some point. But and maybe I'll look into that more, because I've never liked it. Even I think as a kid I didn't like it either, and it wasn't that it really frightened me. It just, I always got the sense of there being more to it there than just air pressure and just things moving around in the wind. As far as regular objects, I feel like there's more to it at times. And I wonder about that, if there really is, or if I don't know. I don't think I'm always imagining things, maybe sometimes, but not all the time. And it seems like the stronger the wind is, the more of that sense I get. And I wonder, it wouldn't surprise me. We've talked in the show before about the idea that spirits of whoever or whatever could manipulate the weather for whatever their reasons are, and use it to travel or use it to gain more power or to manifest in different ways. And I've had stories talk about that here and there. So, and of course I did a whole show on that at one point about weather and possible connections to the paranormal. That was a little while back. May need to revisit that at some point again. But so yeah, I don't know. There's something about weather, but also I can understand fog as well, because that's moisture, I believe, just arranged in different ways. And so if it kind of comes and goes quicker than maybe it feels like it should, then maybe there is a reason for that. Again, I would just like to know in that one story if this fog was connected with this apparition at all. So, of course, it's hard to know, and I think it would take more research into that area, wherever it is, to know that for sure. So, thank you all for listening. Again, I want to thank everyone that has been part of the show this last couple of years since it started, coming up on the 3-year anniversary this Halloween, and looking forward to more shows with other guests, and maybe if we, again, I see that someone there requested to talk. If we get enough other people that want to do that, to do a call-in show, you all let me know, and we'll arrange that. I just I don't like to do it at the moment at random, somewhat to when I have a sort of a planned show. So thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care, everyone.